Nigeria is ranked 161st on the 2020 Global Youth Development Index, which measures the status of young people in 181 countries around the world. Singapore ranked top for the first time, followed by Slovenia, Norway, Malta, Denmark. Chad, the Central African Republic, South Sudan, Afghanistan, and Niger Republic came last, respectively. The index further reveals that the conditions of young people have improved around the world by 3.1% between 2010 and 2018. But progress remains slow. The Commonwealth Secretariat also released its triennial rankings of youth development in the 181 countries, with 156 of them recording at least slight improvements in their scores. We have some asset valuation news regarding Royal Dutch Shell's planned divestment from some of its assets in Nigeria. Global oil and gas consulting firm Wood Mackenzie has valued Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria's 30% stake in its joint venture setup with Nigeria's NNPC and other IOCs at $2.3 billion. So what's next for these highly valuable assets? And also, the Nigerian government is planning on, has announced that it's going to be lifting the Twitter ban pretty soon. Dumebi Iyeke, who is with Financial Derivatives Company Limited, joins us to discuss these stories. Dumebi, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
What do you make of this Wood Mackenzie valuation of these assets from Shell?
The first thing we need to do is look at what's on the table. First of all, Shell has exited the downstream sector across all African countries. That's number one. Number two, what's on the table is the JV of about 30, the JV asset of about 30%. That's their stake, and 19 oil mining leases. So that's what's on the table for this valuation and what's on the table to be sold. But there are three major things to look at. Number one, consent. For Shell to, embark on this journey of selling this asset, it has to get approval and consent from the NNPC. NNPC has about 55% stake in this joint venture. Not only that, it's also Shell is also supposed to negotiate the NNPC's preemptive rights before this asset sale can take place. That's number one. Number two, we look at the financial capacity. Who is going to be able to, absorb all of these assets? If we look at the NNPC, NNPC's, in my terms, is financially swamped with a lot of investments in financial investments in. Number one, the Port Harcourt refinery. We look at Dangote refinery. We look at what's going on with the Warri and Kaduna refinery. So clearly, the NNPC has a lot of stuff going on in terms of financial investment. We also look at the fact that even if a private individual wants to take up this, or maybe an IOC or a financial or another foreign independence company wants to take up this. Okay, how are they going to get the funding for this? Because clearly capital is needed, and right now the European international banks are not allowed to issue loans or funding for fossil fuels. Any company that's coming up to take up a loan or ask for financial support for the use of fossil fuels is not allowed right now, and that's because the world is transitioning far away from oil. So then the third thing that we're looking at is, where does this leave the employees? So whoever is going to buy these assets, rather, are they going to absorb all of the employees, or are the employees left to fend for themselves? So these are the big question marks. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that I can really pick up from this is that, number one, there's clearly something big happening in the oil and gas industry, and that's the fact that most of these companies are seeing the fact that the world is transitioning away from oil, moving towards cleaner energy, and they are trying to tap into this market. So where does this leave Nigeria? Where does it leave the markets? Clearly, Nigeria has to start digging deep into this particular phase the world is entering into.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. All right. More matters in Nigeria. The Twitter ban, or supposedly being lifted. I guess what's your take on that decision, which is incoming?
For Nigerian youth and business owners, small-scale business owners, this is good news, because now they have their market access. Now they would have their market access again. Information asymmetry will clearly reduce. But the most important thing is the loss. So when I looked at this, I said, okay, if we flip it to say the estimated loss that Nigeria was making with this ban, which is about 105 million naira every hour, and that's about 2.5 billion naira every day. If we flip it to say, okay, let's just say, hypothetically, that this is the revenue Nigeria is making just from Twitter alone. That means that in a year, if we annualize these numbers, in a year, Nigeria could make about 900 billion naira from Twitter alone. That's if we flip it.
Right.
We say an hour every day and then monthly and then we annualize it. That means Nigeria could be making about 900 billion naira every day. Now, if we use this as a percentage of GDP, it might be quite minuscule. But when we look at the commercial hubs of the country, which are also where Twitter is mainly used. We look at Lagos, we look at Ibadan, when we look at Abuja as well, when we look at this amount of money as a percentage of this state's GDP, that's about 3%, and that's quite significant. So meaning that not only Twitter, but social media in its sense could do a lot if we're able to harness it for these particular states. That's in terms of investments. We look at this in terms of businesses. We look at this in terms of employment opportunities. We look at this in terms of youth unemployment. So if we look at this holistically, it would do a lot of good for us if this ban, is lifted. And not just only that, in terms of the entire social media space, youth unemployment in Nigeria is about 45. It's almost about 45%. And when we look at this, Nigeria has a median age of 18%. This almost means that almost half of Nigeria's population is unemployed.
Right.
And that says a lot about total factor productivity, about economic growth, about development. So if almost half of our population is unemployed, what exactly would that mean for economic growth in the near term? What would that mean for production? What would that mean for economic development? So in its sense, social media as a whole, not just Twitter now, can do a lot, to help this young population.
Great stuff. Great stuff. What about the impact of this? Twitter says they could open an office in Nigeria. What do you make of that?
The first thing for me is in terms of investor confidence and other, similar businesses that would like to do same, because we've noticed a trend of tech businesses, coming into Africa, setting up shop in Africa. So if Twitter does this, kind of like would redeem Nigeria in their eyes, so to say, and could encourage similar businesses to, set up shop in Nigeria. That's one. Two, we also look at the job opportunities that this would create for young people in the country.
Excellent stuff. Also, the youths, as far as benefiting from this, would it have any significant impact on youth development? How do you see that working out?
I mean, it would have, but at the end of the day, we can't just take this in isolation, right? So, taking us to the Global Development Index and Nigeria falling about 20 ranks and all. So clearly, there has to be a lot more work to be done in terms of youth development. So while this is going to be a good sign, or it's a good step in the right direction, it's clearly not going to be enough to do as much as take Nigeria up back this 20 ranks or even, higher. So clearly, a lot has to be done in terms of creating job opportunities. And then we also look at the fact that a lot of young people are going into entrepreneurship right now. So, but at the same time, we look at the business environment. The business environment is not exactly fantastic for them to thrive, especially small-scale businesses. So now we have to look at policies that can encourage this, encourage young people to go into businesses. Yes, we know that the CBN, has embarked on several initiatives to give money, especially in terms of agriculture. But clearly, more has to be done. The world is going technological. There has to be a lot more investment in youth development in terms of digital innovation, technology, and all.
Excellent stuff. And what you've just gone through now, you can take Nigeria back up the rankings, yes?
Yes, yes.
We've got less than 30 seconds to go. Do you have confidence these can be implemented in the mid-term?
Trust me, a lot of times we don't like to say, oh, yes, it can happen, because you can't be definite. But the truth of the matter is, if we're diligent and if we're disciplined and we stick to what's on paper, it will clearly do a lot of good.
Dumebe, analyst at Financial Derivatives Company Limited, thank you very much. Very thorough discussion today.
Thank you.